Hello, class. This is Marketing 455. This week's social media marketing class is going to focus on KPIs, metrics, different tools, approaches. I'm going to talk a little bit about vendors, specifically one, and then just overall integration across the brand funnel. So before getting into it, and I'll do this most weeks, but try to post some current articles or um, recent news in terms of social media that I think is important for all of you looking at getting into social media marketing. So, posted 3 articles. The first one's from Forbes, The Power of Social Media in the Modern Marketing. Uh, Took a little excerpt. And again, please read the entire article. This also does a really good job. And even though, as I get into the brand funnel, the article maybe uses different terminology. In general, very complementary to what I'm going through today. The one thing I will note, and I took an excerpt from the article, and again, please read the entire article. Um, but it notes the important parts of having a good social media marketing strategy, and this also relates to the previous lesson where I said, you know, even though it's easy to start social media marketing, it is becoming more and more important to make sure you have a good strategic plan as you go into it. And one thing I highlight here is it calls out the importance for creating high quality content. And I totally agree with that. But I do want to call out the fact that one of the great things about social media is it has made people much more receptive to less than high quality professional content. And what I mean by that is you definitely need high quality content that engages your target customer. But you take some, like take memes for example, they're not always great production level um, pieces of creative assets. They're kind of rough, almost like a little raw. And the reason I want to call that out is obviously, if you were going to run an advertisement during the Super Bowl, hey, there's a lot more pressure to make sure that that production of that TV advertisement spot is the highest level of quality. But you don't necessarily need that super high level of quality to be effective and have high quality content in terms of engaging who your target customer is. And why I think that's important is you can do things on a shoestring budget. For example, using Canva, you can create video content for relatively low cost. Yes, it's probably not going to win an Emmy, but if it's engaging your target customer, then it's high quality content. And my recommendation, especially if you're getting into social media that's using video content, is do it on the cheap side, meaning do it at a very budget conservative level. Figure out what works, and then maybe consider upping your production quality, even if you're doing it in-house, right? Like, you know, your video content, or maybe you vendor it out. But again, I just want to call it I think it's important to realize when it says create high quality content, that's not necessarily in terms of production quality. It's in terms, or at least how I feel it should be. It's in terms of, is the content engaging your target audience? Um, and again, you don't need to spend a lot of money on that. And then the other 2 articles, integrating social media in CRM. I think this is a really important part, and we'll get into a little more in the lesson. And actually, a heads up on the assignment this week, it's going to be pertaining to this. Um, at the end of the day, figuring out how to manage the data you're getting from social media, your customer engagements, and how you turn that into sales is a really important piece, and CRMs are an important part of that. The third article is from LinkedIn. It's actually from last year. I think this is an important one. It's still in effect. Um, and it gets into lookalike audiences. So I'm going to summarize it. The article goes into more detail, but basically what LinkedIn did last year was it stopped allowing companies to take lists from other sources, so in essence, their CRM tools, and load that list up and create lookalike audiences. So I mentioned last week, lookalike audiences are basically where you're taking um, a group of customers that you feel are your best customers, and you're telling the platform, go out and find people who look like these people, right? Hence lookalikes. Um, what LinkedIn is basically saying is you can load a list and you can target that list, um, but you cannot create lookalikes off that list if the source of the data is outside LinkedIn, meaning um, you are bringing that data in from a CRM tool or even from Facebook or from your website interactions, a lead form, whatever it is, you're bringing it from outside the system. LinkedIn is no longer going to allow you to create those lookalike audiences. Now, what it will allow you to do is create lookalike audiences for based off of customer data that you've captured on LinkedIn, meaning you've used LinkedIn's lead form and you've captured leads, and those leads, say you captured 1,000 leads and all 1,000 leads became sales, and you're like, hey, I want LinkedIn to go out and find lookalikes based off of these people. You can do that, and they call it uh, predictive audiences. Uh, And so LinkedIn is still allowing you to do lookalikes, but what it's saying is you have to capture the data that is the foundation of the lookalike on the LinkedIn platform. My opinion is LinkedIn wants to maintain its dominance in the B2B space. And so allowing or basically forcing more of the activity to actually take place on LinkedIn is keeping it basically defending against other potential competitors in the B2B social media space. So again, three good articles worth reading. Please dive in. I'm going to get into the brand funnel. Hopefully, all of you have seen a brand funnel. Sometimes the terminology is different. Basically, you have an upper funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel. Upper funnel is usually where you're trying to create that awareness interest. Mid funnel is where you're basically trying to get people to shop, right? You're trying to convert uh, that awareness and interest into consideration. And then lower funnel is where you're in essence trying to get people to buy. You're trying to convert them. And uh, again, I mentioned this in the last lesson. I think social media is great. And again, it's not the silver bullet, not one platform's a silver bullet. But what is great about social media is it is one of the few tactics that you can do at every point in the brand funnel, meaning um, you can, you may be changing your content, um, but unlike, direct mail is often a mid or low funnel activity. Telesales is low funnel. Radio advertising is usually upper funnel, right? Like those tactics, those non-social media tactics, are usually specific to or are most effective at a certain point in the funnel. Social media, it's really kind of the content that you're putting out there that decides where are you going to be most effective in the funnel. And so upper funnel, that's maybe where you're posting blog articles, video content. That's also maybe where influencers are coming in place. Maybe at mid funnel, you're taking that content and modifying it. That's maybe where white papers. You're getting into remarketing off of people who visited your website, and then lower funnel, again, um, maybe some of the same tactics, but you're getting much more into targeting um, using different platforms like WhatsApp to convert sales. And again, a lot of it, depending on what point of the funnel you're trying to tackle will maybe change how you target. Upper funnel, right? You're trying to cast a wider audience. And so you're going to use more profile based or persona based targeting, meaning, demographic, geographic, maybe interests. Mid funnel, right? Now you're trying to find those people that you've made awareness, but you want them to consider or start getting into the shopping mode intent. You want them to evaluate. And so that's maybe where you're going to target the lookalikes or past engagements, meaning remarketing. And then lower funnel, um, that's really where you're going to try to target qualified leads. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit with CRMs, but that's maybe where you're taking those people who have uh, already showed intent and you want to get them to purchase. And so you're going to target that list of people and you're going to pull that list from your CRM. And so now your targeting is much more hyper focused into who you think is a lead that is ready to buy. Um, this will also impact how you're measuring your success, right? Like, so if you're upper funnel, often, again, you're trying to hit a wide audience with a message that is more about awareness and creating interest. You're going to be focused on reach and impressions, right? So cost per milli is an evaluation that is basically the cost per 1,000 impressions. And you're going to use that to evaluate, whether I'm efficient or not. Mid funnel, that's maybe where you're going to look at cost per clicks or click through rates to your website for them to learn more. And then lower front funnel, you're going to be tracking, and you may track all of this, but where you're really paying attention is maybe going to change on that point in the funnel. So lower funnel, you're going to look at conversion rates, right? Cost per leads, cost per sale, close rate, retention rates. And so again, like as you go through the funnel, and uh, I think what makes social media a special marketing tactic in your overall marketing mix is you can deploy it at each point of the funnel, but how you target it, the type of content, what's the content saying, or what the call to actions are, and also how you're tracking it is going to be a little different depending on the point in the funnel. Um, and this is just a table of metrics um, and just showing the different ways you'd look at um, metrics and details based on tactics. Um, and it's not just social media, all of them. And one of the things I call out is more of the traditional brand, whether you want to call it brand advertising or non-digital advertising, out of home, radio, print, TV. And again, TV has changed a lot with streaming. So you have OTT, which is over the top advertising, i.e., Hulu and so forth. Um, but those tactics, those traditional brand advertising tactics, they're really great at tracking impressions, right? You get cost per 1,000 impressions. And what I listed here are general rules of thumb of where you want to be, right? And so um, those are great. The tough thing about those tactics is when you get into the other metrics, they become a lot harder to track. Whereas all your other measurements, email, paid for search, search engine, display advertising, I mentioned OTT advertising, which again is TV streaming, social media, social influencers, and I listed like just my general benchmarks in these. You're now starting to track a lot of these other metrics like cost per click, which is CPC, and click through rates and conversion rates. And what's great about that is you can also start evaluating um, where you should spend more money, right? And so if you're running an email campaign, but you're finding that your social advertising is actually performing better at the click-through rates and the conversion rates, like you could say, you know what, we can continue to do the email marketing campaign, but let's put more of our investment into the social media. And so that's the other great thing with digital marketing in general. So this is kind of the bigger digital marketing piece is you have these data points that you can start comparing across your overall promotional mix and decide where to invest more money. Um, and again, uh, this also plays into the funnel. Um, One of the things I'm a big proponent of, I do this with my own campaigns when I've done consulting. I recently did this on a consulting project. Before I run any major campaign, I do try to waterfall it, meaning I'll walk through, in essence, a brand funnel and say, like, all right, at each level of these engagements, based on what I want to perform, am I am I being realistic? Meaning, and I'll walk through this scenario, but let's say you need 100 new customers and past sales trends, right? So you have some data that says for every 100 leads, 33 sales are made, meaning, to get 33 sales, you need 100 new leads. Um, to get to 100 new customers, you need to find enough possible consumers to generally create 1 million impressions. And so this is kind of backing into that waterfall to say, all right, I want 100 leads. Based on each step of that waterfall, and as that audience goes from really wide to really narrow, how many people should I start with? Meaning, like, what is that total target impressions? And why this is helpful is, and I'm honestly telling you this because years ago I learned it the hard way a number of times where I ran a campaign and it didn't perform um, as I expected, right? And when I looked at the data, I realized it was completely unrealistic because my upper funnel, like who I was starting with, like who I was trying to make aware of the product or the service, and who I was trying to create that interest with, wasn't big enough because you're never going to convert 100% of the people you create interest with. You're just not like, and it's going to be actually much smaller than that. And so by doing this upfront, and often it's a back of a napkin estimates, right? But like trying to use past trends and just general benchmarks, it's a great way to just like before you even start the campaign, like, is this realistic? And often what I find when I do this is at that upper funnel phase, I need to change my targeting to try to grab a larger audience. Um, and I need to adjust my budget sometimes accordingly because I know there's just no way I'm going to hit my business objectives if I'm trying to get 100 new customers and my upper funnel is targeting only 200 people. That would mean I converted 50%, which is really hard to do. So again, and I'll mention this throughout the class, and it's actually I'm a big proponent of doing this kind of back of the napkin waterfall up front before you run any major campaign. Um, Mentioned earlier, CRM and social media. Um, CRMs have, now you have marketing automation, and you even have consumer CDPs, so consumer data platforms, which are kind of in essence like evolutions of CRMs. But what this is trying to depict, and whether it's Salesforce or HubSpot, if you're really being sophisticated with your CRM and even how it's marrying up with your content management system like WordPress or HubSpot or Adobe, really what you want to create is this constant exchange of data between your target consumer, your target clients, and the business, right? And as they go across that journey, whether it's from awareness to engagement to leads, right? You have this constant, if it's done well, you have this constant flow of data. How is the customer engaging with the advertising? capturing that data, which then triggers the next step in the journey. Are they engaging with it? Are they becoming leads? And again, this is probably not the best depiction graphically, but really what I want to illustrate is there is this um, this benefit of creating this holistic integration between the CRM and your social media activities and even your website content management system. And there's uh, I mean, it can get pretty sophisticated, but there are relatively easy ways to set up the pixels and have this kind of done for you. So most of the platforms have tools that will automatically place pixels from Meta or LinkedIn or Twitter on your website, and that allows that tracking back and forth. The next topic is YouTube influencers. Always a hot topic. Uh, I think because like even my kids have said various times, like their career is going to be an influencer. Like it is, I think there's a tendency to like um, just look at influencers. I always use Mr. Beast because that's the one that at least one of my kids follows all the time, and um, you know I think he does a pretty good job. My purpose of this slide is really to get at the fact that it is hard work to become a successful influencer. So don't be fooled. Um, I have the utmost respect for influencers who are making a significant income because they've had to create a lot of engaging content and keep a steady stream of it, often posting it on numerous and even promoting it, spending money to promote it on various platforms. I mean, YouTube's probably the biggest influencer platform, but they're often having to post that content across numerous platforms to get people to view the videos on YouTube. And just at the basic level, to become a YouTube partner or participate in the partner program at the preliminary level, you need 500 subscribers. That's a lot. 3,000 watched hours or 3 million short views in the last 90 days. And I just posted a screenshot of a YouTube page that I manage, and you can see the number one video based on the bar chart is actually a video that we post on the homepage, right? So obviously that is getting a spike in views and engagement because we're promoting that homepage, whether that's on social media or paid search. Um, and so people are naturally watching it. The rest of the videos often are geared towards almost customer service oriented videos, but um, those are just organically posted. We put them on YouTube, put some metadata associated with them, try to give a description that's going to be brought up in YouTube searches. And man, it's tough. It's tough to get that viewer level. And so my point of this slide is um, influencers have become a hot topic, right? Because it's a great way, influencers that have a strong following, it's a great way to brand through them. And but looking at those influencers, the ones that are getting, are making a living out of it, are working really hard. And so, I want to call that out. And then related to influencers, one vendor, and this is an example, there's others out there, but so it has been, this was, before social media, advertisers and marketing, there was always this theory of like, again, going back to knowing your target customer. Hey, create an experience that the target customer can relate to. And I think that's where social media influencer marketing has really, taken that to the next level because, if you want to promote a product that you feel like your key demographic is skateboarders, right? Well, having a bunch of young skateboarders at the local skate park promoting your product, hey, is a great way to relate to other customers who may be interested in a similar product, right? Um, they can feel like they're part of that. And influencer marketing is almost that evolution of uh, sponsoring a professional athlete, right? Like influencers aren't necessarily professional athletes. And I almost contributed, and I have no scientific study behind this, but I almost contribute the rise of influencer marketing from the rise of the GoPro. Um, and if you don't know that, the GoPro is the camera that initially started getting placed on surfboards, and uh, put on helmets of mountain bikes and snowboarders. And it kind of sparked this whole idea of like, hey, you don't need to actually be a paid professional athlete to get some attention online, because I can post my own videos of myself, skateboarding or snowboarding, and get some attention, right? And then my feeling is that kind of sparked this whole idea of, hey, we're we can use our user generated content for advertising. And I mentioned that in the last lesson, like lots of times that's free content, right? And then that evolved into actually people getting paid. Well, what I just mentioned on YouTube, it's really hard to become a successful influencer because by yourself, right? Because you just have to create a lot of good content at a high volume and engage a target audience. And it takes work. Now, there are vendors, and this is an example of one. Used to be called Maverick, now it's Later Influence. Um, and what they do is they basically, how I came about this company was I was looking at working with them at one time. Never did, but what they do is they basically say, all right, what is the product you're selling? What is the demographic you're looking for? Like what are the behaviors? Like again, skateboarder, snowboarder, college student, model, whatever it is. And you kind of create that profile of who you want to be promoting your product as an influencer. And what they do is they go out and they find those people. And again, it may not be a super successful influencer, but they'll go find a bunch of, in essence, mini influencers, get them to promote the product. And they have a platform that allows you to approve the videos before they go live. But in essence, you pay per video engagement, and it's people who fit your profile who are promoting your product. Like let's say it was a cooking product, I don't know, cookware, uh, and you just want a bunch of you know normal chefs or um, normal people cooking meals use your product and promote your products and talk about them. Well, this company would go out and find a bunch of people who are willing to cook with your product and create videos of it and then post those videos. And these vendors, and again, this is an example of one that I linked to, they just create, they allow companies to create economies of scale with a bunch of small influencers. So, this isn't Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, you have to enter agreement, and like that is one influencer that you're going to pay a lot of money to promote your products. These are a bunch of small influencers, but it creates that economy of scale for you, um, and uh, and creates that ease, right? Like in essence, this vendor is going out and finding those people for you. So again, uh, numerous vendors like this. I just wanted to make you aware of such influencer vendors. With that, let me know if you have any questions. And then finally, and this is just a heads up, this week's assignment is going to be a Salesforce Trailhead, and it's CRM and social selling. I'll post instructions on this. This is just to give you a heads up um, that it's coming. It's not a hard assignment, and the good thing about this is you'll get a badge for completing it, which you can put on your resume. But I do think this does a good job of demonstrating how those CRM tools are starting to bring in social media and people specific engagement so sales teams can target those people. And it almost becomes a sense of um, interest or helping to qualify leads by the CRM tools consuming in the social media, in essence, LinkedIn, um, into the profiles of target customers, and especially in the B2B space. This is becoming more and more important. Salesforce is a big player in the CRM space, or in essence, the digital marketing tech space. Um, it's not the only tool that does it, but they also have great. You should go out to Salesforce Trailhead anyways. They have some great modules and trainings that I highly recommend, and I use them to just keep up to date. Especially they have some modules with AI. Um, you know, again, I use it all the time, um, and I think it's a great tool. So with that, I'll wrap up. Thank you, everyone. And again, look for the assignment being posted later this week.